identity are put on. And then that request is forwarded on to Google, the response goes back to the proxy server, and the proxy server returns the response to the client. And then we try and sort of like step it up a notch by encrypting this link from the client to the Google sharing proxy. So you get SSL protection on your local area network for Google services that ordinarily don't even provide HTTPS access. So you can, all your Google search things are now sent over SSL. This was kind of an interesting thing for me because, you know, I was deploying this and I was like, well, I have to get an SSL certificate. And, you know, I've been publishing attacks on SSL for a little while now, and it'd been a while since I just gotten a certificate, like a legitimate certificate, you know. So I was like, all right, I just need to go get one. And so I went straight to the bottom, you know, $6 certificates or something, you know, from someplace, right? Because it doesn't matter. And I, you know, go to this thing, and you have to create an account before you can get the certificate. And so, you know, I fill out my information, whatever, and click the button, create account. And it logs me into someone else's account in like Turkey or something, and I can see all their certificates and all this stuff. I'm like, really? Like, I'm not even looking for security vulnerabilities. I just want a certificate. You know, like, this is just annoying, right? And so, log out. You know, I'll try again. You know, type in my information, create account, logs me into someone else's account, different account this time. You know, I'm like, okay, well, I could just keep doing this until I find an interesting account. But actually, I don't really even care about this right now. I just want a certificate, you know. So I thought, okay, I'll go, you know, one step up to the, you know, $10 certificates or something like that. And so I go to this other place, and, you know, it's a two-step process where first you fill in your contact information, and then the next step is to submit your certificate signing request. So I fill in my contact information, you know, Moxie, Marlinspike, Institute for Disruptive Studies, whatever. Click next. It says, request denied. What? I haven't even given you my certificate signing request yet. Like, how can you deny my request if you haven't even seen it, right? And so I file a support thing, and I'm thinking, I just need a certificate. This is crazy. And, you know, I go to another place. The exact same thing happens. I finally, you know, I escalate the support stuff up the infrastructure, and I'm talking to somebody on the phone, and they're like, oh, yeah, you're banned from our system. We're just not allowed to issue you certificates, which is bullshit, right? But, so eventually, I did get a certificate, and there was some drama with that as well. But the nice thing about this system, right, is that there are other, like, anonymizing networks, things like Tor, and they have very high anonymity aims, right? You know, there's 3-hop proxies, and, you know, these, which is a great system for sort of high-risk traffic. But it's infeasible to think that you would proxy every Google search request throughout the day over Tor, right? It's painfully slow. That this would greatly inhibit your productivity. What's more, these anonymizing systems like Tor that aren't targeted directly for Google work by stripping off the identifying information from your HTTP headers. And when you do that, Google conveniently tags you as a spammer, which means that they give you a CAPTCHA that you have to solve whenever you enter a search request, and you don't have access to things like Maps, News, other Google services. And so the nice thing about Google sharing is, one, it's extremely lightweight and high performance. The only thing that this proxy server is proxying is Google search requests and responses. So it's very fast, and you don't even notice that it's running when you're using a web browser. And the other thing is that Google can't distinguish the Google sharing proxy server from a large corporate NAT because they look identical. You know, there's some number of clients with actual cookies and, you know, valid HTTP headers coming from this IP address. And so you don't have to end up solving the CAPTCHAs or anything because you don't get targeted as a spammer. And how does it look? Well, it looks identical to just using Google. You know, there's no special websites to visit, no changes to your workflow at all. You can use Google Maps, and it loads super fast. The only difference is in the bottom right, there's just the status that says Google sharing is enabled. Any Google service works totally transparently. So this project is available at googlesharing.net. So something like anonymizing your interactions with Google is pretty straightforward, right? Because your intent in using Google is not actually to share information with them. When you're using Google, you're not actually trying to give them your personal information. You're just trying to make use of services. Things like Facebook or whatever are different because your intent is actually to provide information. But you're not really trying to share the information with Facebook. You're trying to share it with some set of friends. And so a project that I like along these lines is called FACECLOAK, which is sort of a proof of concept. It's not a production-ready thing, but it was developed by this guy, Professor Urs Hengartner. And what it does is run it as a Firefox add-on, and it transparently encrypts the information that you send to Facebook if you prepend that information with 2 @ symbols. And then it gives you really easy mechanisms to share your keys with people that are in your friends group, such that if they're also running the add-on, then it will transparently decrypt them. So everybody that's running this add-on uses Facebook. It looks exactly the same. Nothing different happens. And the only difference is that Facebook now doesn't have all of your information, which they can later go back and mine. I think the same thing could be said for projects like Twitter, which are 1/2 broadcast and 1/2 conversation. For the conversation bits, there's no reason for Twitter to have all of that information. Are there people here that don't tweet? All right, yeah. So you people are my heroes, right? Like, I have a Twitter account and something dies inside me every time I issue a tweet. But at the same time, I don't think that it's, I think that if I try and resist things like Twitter, and I do, whatever, I still don't have a Facebook account, but I think that eventually I will become a dinosaur. And that, like dinosaurs, I will become extinct. That I will be removed from this social narrative, from this social conversation, and sort of be left alone. My second thesis here is that the crypto war was largely about data freedom. That while all of this was happening, it was very, the name of the game was trying to get this restricted information out, to make restricted information available. And from that, it was very easy to extrapolate a future of data control. That it was very easy to look at that situation and assume that in the future, what we were going to be dealing with was continued attempts to control data. And so a lot of our privacy projects were born out of that reality. We have things like darknets, data havens, hidden services. They were all born out of this, future nightmare. Does anybody here use darknets? One person? You do? What for?
But not in the sense that you're probably using
okay.
darknets, active darknets.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, right. Most people don't use these things, and I think it's because that's not the future that we got. We got something else, right? This social democracy thing, this thing that looks different. And lately it seems like a lot of privacy advocates really love the other. They are all about Iranian dissidents or Chinese dissidents. Not because these are people in places that have anything in common with them. And I think if you look carefully, they really don't. That the common project of the Iranian dissident and someone who's working on some privacy project are probably pretty dissimilar. But I think that the people who work on these projects are fascinated by people in these places because they live in a world that is still speaking a language that they understand. That these places are still speaking the language of data control, which makes sense in the context of the projects that they have been working on. But I would say that even these places are starting to change. If you look at Iran, recently announced that they're launching a national email service. Even they realize that the most effective thing is to just be Google. What they're saying is not, we're going to try and restrict everything, but that we want you to sign up to our email service. We will provide unlimited storage and all this thing, right? That even they are shifting to this world that starts by soliciting rather than demanding their involvement. The other thing I would say is that the loss of the crypto war was less about the eavesdroppers giving up and more about them changing strategies. And a large shift that we've seen most recently is from this key escrow strategy to a strategy of key disclosure. Right? You see things like RIPA in the UK and other parts of Europe, where the eavesdroppers are effectively requiring, their attitude is, we're not going to try and control cryptography. Right? That is a hard problem, and we haven't been able to do it in the past. Anybody can use whatever cryptography they would like. But if at any point we want to read your communication, we come to you and we ask for your key. And if you don't give it to us, we put you in jail. And so this is this key disclosure problem, which is ultimately a problem of not having forward security in our communications protocols. So if I'm thinking about the future, the first thing I want to do is deal with these choices that aren't choices, these sort of false choices that we're having to deal with. And